Welcome to our webinar today. We're going to be answering some questions and going through some answers just to help everyone who's got any queries about their health or what's going on. We decided to do a seasonal one today because as we've now started our spring, it's really important that we start answering some of the questions that come up at this time of year. Health really does change with every season. So it's so important that we start to deal with the new timeframes, the longer days, the fact the sun's coming out. But also, as well as that, it's the fact that our kind of get up and go starts to come back a little bit before some of our reserves do. So we thought we'd answer some common questions. So I'll pose the first question that we've already been asked. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put it into the comments and we'll try and answer as many as we can. The first one, though, is what food is good to eat in spring according to Chinese medicine?
So Chinese medicine looks at spring as being liver and wood in their philosophy, and wood is all about new growth and new energy. So we kind of consider it's a really good time to start a new project, or it's why people around this time come to me and go, I want to start my diet, I want to start my exercise program, I want to get back on track with my health. They just have this feeling in them, and we all have that a little bit in spring, I think, that we're ready to begin anew, we're ready to begin fresh. And I think that when we look at the food that's coming up seasonally, that can really help us work out what food is good to eat in Chinese medicine. Its traditional taste is what we call sour, which is a hard one to pick up. But I think if you think about vinegar is sour. And we always kind of apply that to all the fermented foods. So the fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut, they all taste a little bit sour. And so they're a great food to be putting into your diet for gut health anyway. And I think, putting a teaspoon of those on your salads, that helps a little bit with the sour taste. You can also put in lots of those fresh, cooling foods. The liver often gets a little bit of heat and stress built up in it. In Chinese medicine, it controls our stress and our emotions. So it's a good area to just soothe and cool a bit. So I think all our kind of nourishing foods can be good in there, but you can bring in a few cooling salads, steaming, stir frying, not doing those really heavy, dense foods of winter.
Okay. And then specifically, we really do like to eat seasonally, especially with Adio here. I mean, in the house, we always eat very seasonally for two reasons, really. One, because it's good for your health. I mean, if you think about it, the planet will give us the right foods at the right time of year, but also it's better.
No air miles.
Yeah, it's better for the environment. But that's also, really big for us is that we make sure we're not kind of continuously flying in our food. And as nice and convenient as it is to get, the food you want at the time of year you want, it doesn't necessarily mean it's better for you or the planet. So it's looking at what kind of grows at this time of year.
Yeah. And that automatically is the nourishing foods that we want, really, is the spring greens and things are coming up this time of year. And you see that those foods go a bit lighter, really, than the heavier, denser squashes and other things that can manage to go through a bit of autumn and winter. We start to end up with less starchy veg and more sort of leaf-based veg. We get things like rhubarb, not my favorite, but I think possibly if you make it to a crumble, I don't know. And cauliflower, a great vegetable, and your favorite, I think, and mine, well, my daughter's favorite as well, asparagus.
And it's interesting that some of these are quite fast growing as well. So things like asparagus, they're very, very quick to harvest. It's those things. So even though you spend a couple of years nourishing the roots, you can harvest that after a couple of days. So it shows you that the spring, it really is trying to bring in some nutrients quickly. And it really is because we've come from winter. I suppose we have quite the deficit, really, don't we? And it's that kind of that halfway house, isn't it? Because I can see the lighter evenings, I'm already looking at the dog going, oh, let's go out. Let's sort of enjoying the spring. But you have to be very, very, very careful with your kind of energy levels to make sure you're still taking lots of rest, lots of recovery. It's a bit like April weather, where you have kind of one day where it's really nice, the next day it's horrible again. I know 2 weeks ago we were in shorts and vests, and then 3 days later we were in woolly hats and gloves again. And it's realizing that you kind of need to follow those curves and kind of go, if it's nice, great, go outside, enjoy some sunshine, get some vitamin D, because the sun is quite warm. But at the same time, take those days where you get lots of rest, recovery, keep replenishing all the time. And I suppose that goes with that sour thing you're saying as well. They're all the deeply nourishing foods as well, like your kimchi and your sauerkrauts.
The ones that help our gut health. And I think also we have to consider that this winter, and I think the last 2 years, it's a bit more of a spring this year. We're coming out of something very, very dark and intense and difficult. And I think this spring feels a bit like a release for a lot of people, that suddenly things have calmed down again, hopefully for most people anyway. And I think we have to be careful that we also remember that we've had a very stressful time and a really difficult time, and that we nourish ourselves, and we make sure that we are still taking that stress relieving time, that breath work, meditation, all of those things we need to do to make sure the emotional pressure doesn't get to us.
That leads nicely on to the next question. So I'll ask the next one as well, which is, I keep getting ill since COVID and I don't feel right. What should I do to recover? I don't want to get long COVID.
So I think a lot of people have had COVID around Christmas, around January, around February. And I think, there's a big article on ADIO about long COVID to try and help people deal with some of those symptoms because they're quite complex. But for the majority of people, I'd say that energy is one of the things that we really notice. I think some people have noticed mood. It's a common one that I've seen, and I think we've noticed is that people's mood really drops after. It's a funny virus for doing that. And I think, the energy side, we often recommend people take a multivitamin. People have a little bit of extra iron if they think they may be deficient. And Spartone's a really nice natural iron supplement that can help. Again, use those nourishing restorative foods. So the soups and the bone broths, all of those things will help us get a little bit stronger. So we're really working on nourishing and also taking rest. We used to convalesce after big illnesses. COVID is probably equivalent to having flu. So for a lot of people, we need to remember that it takes a long time to recover from flu. What people say is flu is often a cold. Flu is knocks you out for a bit, and your immune system's often a little weaker after it. If you look on ADIO, astragalus, that you can put in soups, and some of our recipes there would be really, really helpful for you doing. Astragalus is a Chinese herb that boosts that immune function again. We've got elderberry syrup that's fantastic, and I would highly recommend some fire cider as well around this time of year, just to get rid of anything left over from COVID.
It's also like making sure, of course, that you do bring in a little bit of gentle movement. So going for a walk, helping your body detox. You can find after you've had COVID, you've been resting for a while. So just going for a short walk can just help the body to clear all those toxins. We keep seeing a lot of high inflammation with COVID as well. So it's just doing a few things to kind of calm that down. So you always tell me to take turmeric and things like that to keep the inflammation level a little bit lower.
Yeah, and I think, considering your omega-3s, considering getting your diet as healthy as possible, low in processed food, low in sugar, so you're not stressing it out in another way when it's trying to heal and get better from COVID. But in the majority of cases, most of our patients have come through it pretty well, I think. I don't think there's been many. Even my patients who've been quite unwell have done very, very well through it. We've used some Chinese herb combinations, which have been great. We've really enjoyed using the diffusers. I think they've been very popular. A diffuser with the essential oil combinations that can help with breathing and help with the cough. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just allowing your body to heal and giving it that space and time, and also being accepting that it does take a few weeks. And then the majority of people, they come out of it. For long COVID, go and visit the page on ADIO and it'll tell you in a lot more detail things that you can do to help that.
I also take it a bit more broadly as well. And I say, it's all very well at the moment that everyone's testing for COVID and looking at COVID, but please try to remember there are other viruses in the world. So, even if you're testing totally negative for COVID, doesn't mean you shouldn't rest. It doesn't mean, you could just have a cold, yes, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't use the same things. Rest, take the nourishment in, treat it the same way. Please remember these things still all exist. And if you're not well, you're just not well. Yeah. So take the extra time with every virus.
We've treated COVID in pretty much the same way, I think. And I think it's responded in a similar way to most bugs and viruses. I think that if you're unwell, that's when we have to take precautions against any bug. If you're feeling good in yourself and you're working on your health, you'll often find you do better with these bugs. So it isn't totally random, I don't think. It's a lot also to do with our own immune health and our own immune system function. So, we've got the immune toolkit on ADIO you can go and do to work on your own immune system. You'll notice that the number one villain of the immune system is stress, which I completely agree with too, because no matter how good I am with everything else, if I get myself stressed out and a sore throat starts and I go, oh, no. And I think stress management is probably one of the biggest things you can do to help your immune system, as well as keeping down your sugar.
It's interesting though when you say stress, because I always think stress is often thought to be mental, but you stress your body in exactly the same way, don't we? We push physically, mentally, and it's just putting stress on ourselves. And it's as long as you try and look at all of it, the physical, the mental, and keep that stress down, you should be fine.
Shall I ask a question?
Yes, go for it.
So I have lots of joint problems and I want to start exercising. What's the best exercise to do to avoid hurting myself?
It varies, very dependent on what the joint problems are. So if you have lots of wear and tear or arthritis in your joints, you'd want to start with something that's not weight bearing. So think like swimming. That's going to be nice and safe. You won't put too much pressure behind your joints, but you can still get all the ligaments around the spine, around the joints to strengthen, and you're getting a nice cardiovascular kind of response from it. So you're talking the benefits of fitness and exercise. It's a good one to start with. At the same time, though, if you have a little bit of low bone density or going towards osteoporosis, I would say that swimming isn't the best form of exercise for you. You can do it. It's good for your ligaments, but it doesn't help bone density. So you want to be doing weight-bearing exercises. So that's be more like just going for a walk. You have to think more like your kind of caveman and woman and see what sort of exercise they would do. And they would walk on uneven surfaces, like walking up hills for long periods of time. That's always been the safest form of exercise for us. If we have joint problems, just do the same thing, but just pick a spongier surface. So walk on something that's more like grass, nice and gentle, nice and flat, and just take it day by day. Don't try and do a 3-hour walk on one day and wonder why you're hurt the next day. It's doing little bits and often. And I would say with all exercise, it still looks and should feel like the gym. So what I mean by that is whether you're going for a walk from your house or you're at a gym, you should do a warm up and a cool down in the same way. And I can't emphasize that enough. Everyone leaves their house, goes for a walk, comes back and sits on the sofa. It's not really the same. When you go to the gym, you do warm up and you do cool down by stretching out, and you have to do the same thing, especially in spring. We are a bit more stiff than they normally would be. So I would say stretch those legs out. Use a foam roller if you want to. It's like a bumpy sausage. You roll your legs over, keeps everything nice and loose. They're ideal, but I would always say start with walking. And if you then want to progress, you can go something like cycling.
Great. We've got another couple of questions.
Yeah.
Want to go for one from a patient that we had just recently. We had one about nappy rash, and that person was already doing aloe vera, which we'd often recommend because it's really soothing and really gentle to use on babies, and Epsom salts. We would say the best thing to do from a medical point of view is to check it's not a fungal infection, so it's not thrush, and that can cause, it can be a lot redder, it's more painful, you see it more in the creases, sometimes with a few sort of satellite areas around it, and they might have oral thrush as well. It can sometimes go together if it's a baby. So they might have on their tongue a white coating. So I think just double check if you're not sure. If it is nappy rash, then I think your first thing is prevention, and that is looking at the nappies that you're using. You know, it's interesting when you look at what's in nappies. Nappies have plastic linings on them. They have a fair amount of toxins in standard ones. We have a bit of a bugbear about the environmental cost of nappies. And both my children, my daughter, we weren't quite up to the reusable stage. We managed that by my son. My daughter, we used bamboo natties, and they were brilliant because they're biodegrade, they're non-toxic, they're actually really gentle on their skin, and I'm pretty sure that kept her nappy rash free.
We did it once, so good, didn't we? We went away once and we got stuck on a motorway on the way back with no nappies, and we literally bought one regular nappy, and within about an hour she had a slight nappy rash. We were like, one nappy? She'd never had it before, never had it since.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
And I think so using those bamboo ones, there's one called Mama Bamboo online that's a really great website that you can go and visit. If you're up to the reusable, we'd really highly advise this. They're a lot easier than you think. I managed them for my son, and actually, they're actually a dream when you get used to them. Center Parks was our only blip in that, but we should have taken bamboo ones with us.
We did not know they didn't have washers and dryers.
No, that was a bit of a shock.
We got very good at hanging them on washing lines.
Yeah, and like using the bath as washing machine. But the Topbots Bamboozle is the brand that we used, and they were absolutely brilliant. And you just bought a set of those, and they probably save you a lot of money, but they also are just so easy and they're gentle on the skin again. So I think that helps avoid the nappy rash. When you actually have nappy rash, if you're local to us, we use our body cream, which is in the clinic, which we make an organic natural body cream, put herbs in it. And we found that, actually the nursery where my daughter and my son both went, actually took a load of pots of it because they found it so useful for helping with nappy rash.
It's so gentle.
Because it's so gentle and it just cleared it up instantly. But if you're not lucky enough to be near us, then we recommend Organic Babies do a soothing baby salve, which is excellent. That kind of acts a bit like a barrier. It's a bit more greasy, but it's not toxic at all. Their range is really beautiful. They also do nappy creams there as well. But the salve particularly, I think is great because a lot of the problem is any cream just sinks straight in and doesn't protect that area that's very sore and raw. So using that baby salve, we'll either do a calendula cream, also very, very good. And if you were worried that there might be a bit of fungal element in it, as long as it's not a very young baby, so they're over 3 months, you could put in 1 drop of tea tree and a drop of chamomile, and that will help with any fungal infection too. It's in like a nice generous one. Just put it in a blob of the cream and mix it in. Don't apply it neat. And that's a really good thing to do as well, and should calm everything down. But a lot of it's prevention, having the right nappies, and then once the other thing to consider, I guess, is whether you've got an allergen or something on the inside causing it. So it's worth then looking at dairy and gluten in mum's diet, or in any baby formula, whether you consider maybe a goat's milk formula or something that's a little bit gentler on their system, and see if you're better off with it.
Perfect. That's great. Okay, so let's go on to the next question, which is a very, very common one for spring as well. Everyone's seen the summer holidays coming along, which is, I would like to lose some weight. What sort of exercise would help? So I think before I jump down the exercise route, I would always say that losing weight is generally 70 to 80% diet. I love exercise. I probably exercise at least 5 or 6 days a week. It doesn't affect my weight particularly. It makes me feel good. It definitely gives me the kind of idea that I want to lose weight, but I've only ever lost weight with diet. And it really is getting you into that mentality, and it makes you healthier. I would say, though, that doing the right exercise definitely kickstarts your metabolism. So you want to be doing things that push your heart rate, but not too hard. So if you're new to exercise, I would say simply going for a walk would help, but doing it regularly, and don't make it difficult. So make it something that you can do for 20 minutes every single day. and just build it into your life so that 5 days a week, every single work day, let's say, you go for a 20 to 30 minute walk, regardless, rain, shine, anything. We recently got dogs, and I would say I've probably lost about 4 kilograms since we got dogs. Because somebody told me puppies don't walk very far. They lied.
We've got Labradors now. So Labradors, they walk a really,
walk
really long way.
2.5 hours a day.
Yeah. I've only ever seen very, very slim people with Labradors. I mean, just anybody, I was like, now I understand.
Because they just walk, and if you don't walk them to death, then essentially they eat your house. So I would say walking is possibly proved to be the best exercise I've ever seen.
It makes you a little stiff, so do loads of rollering.
And there you go. So it's also the other thing. So it's also pushing your heart rate a little bit. So once you've gotten used to doing some walking, it's building that up. So I like interval training a lot. So that means when you're walking, walk faster. So essentially walk fast for a period, then slow down for a bit. Walk fast for a bit, then slow down for a bit. If you've got any sort of smart watch or smart ring or whatever you've got, it's a really good idea to track that and start pushing it up and down. So your heart has to keep changing its rhythm. It's actually better in a lot of ways than keeping a very high intensity for a long period of time.
Get more benefit from it.
Yeah, you see a lot of classes now. A lot of classes are now HIIT classes, and it's that bringing you up and down. But you can do it with a walk. You can also do it if you really want to push it a little bit. You can also go for a jog and a walk. So you can just jog gently for like 30 seconds and then walk for 2 or 3 minutes. I don't mind that one at all. I prefer it on a bike. So if you're going to be on a stationary bike, again, just cycle as hard as you can for 30 seconds, back off for 2 minutes. And they've seen if you do that for, let's say, 7 or 8 rounds, that really kickstarts your metabolism. So if you're also already eating a good diet, a little bit lower in sugar, you'll see a massive benefit from doing both of those at the same time.
Rather than spending hours in the gym just running on a treadmill, that is the most efficient way to do it. It's also worth, however, remembering that for some people, and I think particularly women, depending on where you are, if you're perimenopausal, if you're around that time, if you're a little burnt out and your energy's a bit low, you have to be a little careful with the intense exercise. It's not that you shouldn't do it, it's that you should listen to your body, because when you exercise, you spike your cortisol. And if your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, is just a bit on the high side anyway, doing a lot of HIIT training can cause a bit of a problem. And actually, cortisol can make you maintain weight. So although you can be quite fit and well, sometimes if your cortisol level's quite high, then actually you're not always doing the best form of exercise for you. And that's where restorative exercise comes really important. And considering balance using yoga and restorative yin yoga, which we've got some of those great things on Adio that you can go and do the yoga classes there. And also, I'm quite into Qigong at the moment. So I'm doing quite a lot of Qigong, which I love, which is a form of Tai Chi. And that's a very restorative form of exercise. And sometimes my body, you are definitely someone who relaxes doing exercise. Sometimes I don't feel it's right for me. I feel intense exercise really bothers me.
But also where we match though is when we walk. So we both walk the dog, but even though for some reason we pick different locations, it tends to be that we pick an area when we walk the dog that calms us down. So I do a very strenuous walk around Old Ledge Woods, but it's the woods that calm my brain down, and it's that environment. You like to go to Lyme Park, same thing. It's actually not that easy a walk, but the environment makes you very calm, and it's building in that kind of that mental side.
Short bursts of hill. I can do short bursts of hill.
It's that word I can never remember how to say, where you're basically walking through the wooded area and it makes you feel nice and calm. And
the Shinrin Yoku.
That's the one. I'm glad you said that. Fast. It's all about making sure you really calm the brain down what you do. So that would be ideal if your cortisol levels are high. You can still get the nice walk, but just pick an environment that's calming. Don't necessarily go with 7 friends and talk continuously the whole time you're out. A bit of time on your own, a bit of time with your own brain, and you'll find by the time you get to the end of the walk, it's often, I don't know, maybe it's more
like
a female thing.
Meditation.
By the time you get to the end of the walk, it's amazing how your brains come up with 7 solutions to where you are.
They show that rotation, it's interesting. The rotation of your hips is actually, they've seen it causes brainwave patterns in your brain that actually relax you. It's creating something a bit like meditation. It's a funny thing, that rhythm of walking. So it's interesting, and arm swing is important in there as well. Yes. So it's fascinating how nature and our bodies naturally know how to make us better when we're struggling. So I think we listen to those, and sometimes that can be more beneficial than a couple of hours in the gym, or even, going and pushing yourself through an exercise class when you don't feel up to it.
But there is something we said also about weight, and that is, we are losing our bone density. Our vitamin D levels are lowering. Without realizing it, we are becoming more osteoporotic. I see it a lot more in patients now than I ever saw 10, 15 years ago. And that's got to be a difference in our hormones and our nutrition. Yeah. So it's all about making sure really that we start increasing some weight bearing exercise. So if you are able to do some weights, I would say, especially when I take Jess to the gym, we don't spend hours and hours doing cardio. I basically created an entire routine where we do all of it using weights. I just do it in a very kind of low level of weight that pushes your heart rate, so that you're lifting the weights, but they're not crazy heavy. They're just enough to load the bone, but making your heart work out a little bit at a time. It's not a long routine, 20 minutes. And I probably annoy you to death by doing loads and loads of stretching before and after. But it means you get that fantastic weight bearing exercise. You've loaded the bones, they've gained more density, everything's happy, and you don't walk away more stiff. So as a chiropractor, I'm very happy as well.
And then we go to sauna.
And then we sauna.
It's great. That's the fun bit at the end.
I hold that at the end as a carrot.
But when we talk about losing weight, we go back to the fact that diet is 80% of weight loss. It is the bit that we really need to remember to do. And I think the exercise can really help your head stay in the right place. It can help your stress levels to keep you on track with the diet. So there's a huge benefit to the exercise, but you cannot just exercise your way to losing weight. Yeah. You know, you have to look at diet and address it too. And even if you don't do more than just unprocess your food, you know, start making your food from scratch, you'll instantly find, and stop eating packets. You know, anything in a packet, try and have a go at making it yourself. Get some good recipes and try and look at your basic ingredients, your whole food ingredients. You'll start losing weight. And I think also cut down your grains, cut down, you know, particularly cut down the ones containing gluten, but also consider cutting them all down, cut the rice down, cut the corn down, the oats, all of those things, and your weight will tend to drop. Yep. And the Refresh program, obviously, if you're up to it and you're feeling all full of that spring energy, go and do our Refresh program. You know, we have seen, I don't know how many patients lose weight on that, but huge numbers of them have seen massive benefit doing that. And I think I felt it myself. We felt it when we designed it, and we still do that program regularly. Yep.
It's all of it together, really.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's the next question for you.
Yes.
Okay. So this time of year, we have to start really thinking about what's going on seasonally, of course. And the number one is we're starting to get into grass and tree pollens. And of course, the big word, hay fever.
Yeah.
So next question. I suffer with hay fever. What can I do to prevent it or improve it?
So it's a complicated question, because I think it's, first of all, and I do this a lot with my patients, working out is definitely hay fever going on. So if you have like a runny nose, streaming eyes all year round, then it could be that you've got another allergy going on. You've got a dust allergy, you've got a food allergy, something else triggering. And we've seen a lot of those this year. I would say if you are seeing that it comes on seasonally and it comes on between about February and May, that's, if you look at the trees, you can see at the moment they're flowering. So we've got tree pollens going on at the moment. So that gives you a clue, and that's like birch pollen, which can cross over with food as well. So there's some interesting side to hay fever. You can get more testing done to do this. There's a blood test, an IgE blood test for inhalants that will tell you which one you're allergic to. But you can guess it. You know, if it's that time of year every year, then you're pretty sure you've got hay fever. Often runs in families, so ask your parents, ask around, check what your family history is with hay fever. And you often get the runny eyes, the street. You can get streaming eyes, streaming nose. You can get asthma symptoms with it, and it can be really severe and make you drowsy and make your quality of life very poor. If you're then getting it from, say, May, June, right through the summer, then you're heading into the grass pollen season. That's a different type of pollen. And then we've got weeds and things like mugwort and plantain there at the end of the season, coming into September. So I think that can help you a little bit with what you're allergic to. Then it's how you address it, really. Obviously, I think if you're indoors, one of the best things you can do is obviously not have your windows open for you, but indoor air quality is important. So an air purifier is a really great thing to have, and we have them in the house. I think that will improve your quality, and it filters out pollen. So definitely in the room you sleep in, really good idea to think about an air purifier. When you're going out, you know, there are little balms that you can get. There's the Haymax barrier balm that's great. That you can, it actually does work, and it's like Vaseline, but you have to apply it several times a day, carry it with you. And if you're going outside for long periods, keep reapplying it, and it traps a lot of the pollen, and it reduces your symptoms. You put it under your eyes and round your nose, and that will help a little bit too. You're really helping your immune system. When you're having a reaction like that, your immune system's inappropriately triggering, really. So immune health is what we want to work on. It's a bit late by the time we've got to hay fever season, but definitely think about it coming into the year, looking at the elderberry, looking at all the multivitamins and the vitamin D. You can take certain herbs to help it. One of those that we think is great, actually, I brought a little combination to show you because we knew this question was coming up. And this is actually like a Be Prepared formula. I think it's actually fantastic. You can buy it on Amazon. And actually, I tested it out because I read the herbs and thought they were great. And my daughter's got an allergy to dogs, so we've been we've been treating her through this. But it's absolutely brilliant, and I've used it for a lot of my patients with hay fever. So it's a really simple, easy, cheap combination. Taking one of these twice a day, I think, really does make a difference. And the herbs in it are ones that we would use as herbalists, so it's prepared for you and regular. Butterbur is known in all the trials to do it, but there's a little bit of controversy around one of the components of it and whether it affects your liver. So you have to buy one that's they call PA free. That's a good one to try. Elderberry syrup that we have on our site will help your immune system, and that's a really good one. I use the Chinese herbal combination that is wonderful, and it goes out in droves this time of year, and I find it really works. And you take 3 capsules of that twice a day. It's called Yin Xiao San. We've got an article on Adio. You can go and read about that as well. And finally, don't disregard homeopathy. I think homeopathy really comes into its own in hay fever season. The mixed pollens and grasses that we give out in combination all the time, they do their own hay fever combination. And again, I've written it in the article for you. It's absolutely brilliant. So I think it's all about getting your immune system a bit stronger, not overstressing it again, trying to prevent too much contact with the pollen. And then all of those herbs have been traditionally used for a long time, thousands of years, to help people who have developed hay fever. But I think I've seen more of it recently than we have done before. Allergies have been very, very big this year.
You have to slightly blame the food industry a little bit, though, because we used to be eating pollen all the time without realizing it. So in honeys we ate, it would have lots of pollen inside it, and it was essentially, more of a kind of robust kind of health food. Unfortunately, a lot of companies have taken honey now and heated it to death, killed everything that's inside it, filtered it to death, and it's now basically a sugar syrup. You get a really nice local farmers market type honey. That's pollen that you will be breathing in. So your body would kind of get a tiny dose of it all the time.
It's like a microdose. It's exactly what they do in a kind of immunotherapy. They give you tiny doses and build them up. It's a way to desensitize yourself to allergies. So it's a way you can do it yourself, a teaspoon of honey, but you have to do it for the whole year. Yeah. And it will help you the next year.
It is helped by the fact that it tastes about 50 times better than other honey.
Yeah, it does taste great.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
It does taste great. We'll ask about the garden. We've got another one as well. We've got 2 questions to get back in. I'll do the gardening one. Yep. So is gardening bad for me? I always feel my back is stiff the next day.
So this is a question I get asked a lot in practice, and at this time of year, I probably answer it 30 times a day. So essentially, gardening in itself is a fantastic exercise. I'll say it again, it's fantastic. It's a whole body exercise. You're going to be doing bending and lifting and twisting and weights. Your arms will be above your head. It's brilliant. As a caveman or woman, yet again, we would have done a lot of gardening. So it's great for us. The problem comes in where we don't look at it like the gym. I go to the gym regularly. I still only go 40 minutes to an hour. I make sure I warm up and I cool down. Yet for some reason, we go into the garden. I'm guilty of this too. For 5 to 6 hours.
Nothing.
You got a nice patio out of it.
I got a lovely path running up my thing, but I seem to remember
5 hours.
There was a little bit sore afterwards.
But interestingly, I warmed up. I spent probably 40 minutes when I came in cooling down, icing, rollering, stretching myself out. Next morning, I was absolutely fine. And I carried on and did another half day. And it's that difference. It's looking at it like it's the gym. Come in and don't sit in a chair. You will seize up, and the next morning you will feel awful. So come in, use an ice pack, drink loads of water because you've been doing manual work for hours and you'll be very dehydrated. And then make sure you stretch. So stretch all your legs out. If you've got a foam roller, please use one. What you'll find is your back won't be stiff. The next day you'll feel fine. And actually, you'll feel amazing from being outside. I mean, you talk about grounding a lot, and it really is amazing being out in the soil.
Yeah, and putting your bare feet on it is the very important bit there.
Yeah.
That helps you feel a lot better. And there's some argument that it really helps you with all these electromagnetic fields around. But there's a whole lot of studies showing how good it is for health. There's a great book called Earthing by a cardiologist explaining the amazing benefits of actually grounding, just standing with your feet on the earth. Mm-hmm. You can do it with mats inside for those of us in the UK who have rain and mud through much of the year. But no, it feels fantastic. And I've seen the benefits in patients and in myself doing that. So I think we've got time probably just to answer at least one more. We got another question which was about the removal of mercury fillings. This is a question we got from by email, and I think it's one that we had a webinar with Dr. Jenny Goodman, which was absolutely fantastic, and we're very shortly going on Adio. I'm sorry, we will get the subtitling done, but it will very shortly be on Adio, and that was brilliant, and she explained the basis of toxins. And I think we don't think about some of these toxins we have in our body. Mercury in our fillings, is now a banned substance. They don't put it in fillings for especially pregnant women and children. And I think you should always check if you're ever having one that's definitely not got any mercury in it. Arguably, some of the other compounds may also not be great, but mercury we definitely know is quite toxic. And the problem is that when we've got it in our teeth, it's deciding then when we want to try and get rid of those out of our teeth. And I think when you're feeling really rubbish, run down, it's winter, it's not a good time to go, let's remove all my mercury fillings, because when they do that, they vaporize it. We know from mercury thermometers, if anyone ever knows, that you can absorb them straight through your skin. It's very, very absorbable and quite toxic. So even with the best dentist, and they should use a dam, and we've got a good list of dentists, we think, that we wrote it on the hub. So we'll just double check, but under Dr. Jenny Goodman's post in the hub support group. There's a couple of links there, and she gave us a link for dentists who do mercury removal. And you want to do it at a time when you're feeling good, not when you're feeling really run down, because it's probably worse for your health to go and have them all removed at that point. When you do have them removed, there's a lot of things that you can do to help with that. I suggest to my patients that they juice and have lots of green juices around it, which helps your body detox.
Yep.
Also, that they rinse their mouth out before and after with spirulina or chlorella, the algae that are really good at binding toxins. And also use coconut oil teeth pulling really regularly before and afterwards, because coconut teeth pulling, which is where you take a teaspoon of coconut oil, you put it in your mouth and you let it dissolve and you swill it round, that is shown to help the microbiome in the mouth. So I think you'll find that coconut oil is a really excellent thing to use regularly anyway to help your oral health. And I think especially around that time, you want to restore it once you've had that dental work done.
Perfect. So that's our seasonal Q&A over for today. So as a recap, we want to make sure that this time of year you're taking lots of rest, lots of recovery. You're kind of building all your stores after winter. Please work on your immune system and try and eat as seasonally as possible, whilst remembering to lower all the sugar. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.